Hello and welcome to another video. I haven't done one in a little while. If you can't tell over the microphone, I'm actually a little bit sick right now, so that's why I haven't been on, and just general busyness. There hasn't been really much to talk about. I haven't played any F1 Manager games in a few weeks. And yeah, but I figured the season's about to start. Let's get into some of the prediction stuff going into the season. So I figured before testing has started, let's just go with the simple, silly season. Who's going to be there next year? Who's not going to be? So obviously, I've got some people with their names already fully written in. That's because I think it's pretty well documented that their contract is running into 2024. So I figured I just left them there. Guys who are unconfirmed, it's just we don't know the actual years of their contract. And guys who are empty, we know that their contract is ending at the end of the year. So at least I believe we know that their contracts are ending at the end of the year. So I figure let's kind of go over all of these. And I'll go basically starting with the most obvious teams to the least obvious, because let's just get the easy ones out of the way. So I'm going to go over this pretty quickly, I think, hopefully. Don't want to really dwell on it too long. But yeah, oh, that didn't go. Let's start with the most obvious. Aston Martin. They have a current team of Alonso and Stroll. I think it's going to stay the same. Like, Alonso has a 2-year contract, and unless absolutely things are awful, which they don't seem like they're going to be based on the second half of last season and since the launch, their new car looks good. I'll join the optimistic side of their crowd, and I think Alonso stays through the end of the year into next season. I don't think he's looking for next season to be winning or anything like that, but I think like 2025, 2026, I think that's when Alonso's trying to stick around for. And obviously Stroll, as long as Daddy's running the team, it doesn't matter if he excels or does awful. Stroll is going to be there. So for the next obvious choice, I actually went with Mercedes. Now, obviously, it's a little bit of a question up in the air right now of if Lewis will stick around, and I think he will. It seemed like especially at the beginning of last season, I was probably amongst the big crowd of like, the car's not competitive. Is he gonna even want to bother racing if he's not winning all the time? But it looks like it actually completely brought out that competitive side for him that we hadn't really seen in a long time. Yes, we did see it against Max, but it was very, very heated. This was like a legit, like genuine, like I wanted, like when he talks about building up the team, I believe absolutely everything he's saying. Like a lot of teams, I think a lot of drivers just say it because they just want to have the best car possible. They want to win. I think Lewis just genuinely wants the team to succeed. Yeah, there's no other way around it. And obviously Russell is back for next year. He's their future as of right now. I could see another driver coming in, but that's not for another few years off, I don't think. I might go over that in another video. I don't know. So moving on to the next team, I have AlphaTauri. From this point on is when I actually do have changes within every single team. I didn't have teams keep their lineups. So I went with, I wouldn't say it's the obvious choice, but it's definitely an option for them. I think Nick DeVries will have a good year. I think he will not regularly outpace Yuki, but I think he's going to get the better of him just maybe ever so slightly. And of course, there's been questions about Yuki every season he's had so far. So if Nick comes in and does get beaten by, granted, a rookie who's 28 years old, I think it's just going to be such a bad look on him that it'll be kind of really hard to get past that. And I think he will be replaced by the end of the year by none other than Daniel Ricciardo. Now, when I say that, I don't mean it in like a mid-season swap or anything like that. I absolutely see Danny Rick, maybe not the first race, but by the time they get to like Australia or something, he's gonna be just itching. He's like, he'll miss racing and he'll want to get into a seat. And I don't think I know a lot of people are talking about Perez right now, but I think Red Bull will honor his contract into 2024 and just let him drive it out. And meanwhile, if they do decide to potentially move on from Perez in the future, they're going to give these two a direct comparison against each other to see if they decide to replace Perez with one of them, let's see who they decide to go with, because both of them get along really, really, really well with Max. Granted, I don't think Yuki doesn't get along with Max per se, but yeah, it'll be a nice, interesting competition of a couple veterans, because I don't think anyone's going to jump out to them enough in F2. I do have a few options who I think could make the jump, but I think Red Bull decides to continue to play that conservative card that they have done for like the last couple seasons and give the chance to the veteran. Especially since, they love Ricciardo loves them, and if Nick does beat Tsunoda, there's no reason for him to leave the team. So moving on to the next team, I have Williams with my really bad edit of Alex Albon and Logan Sargent. So I do think there will be a change at the end of the year. I think with Josh Capito going out and James Vowles going in, like it was pretty obvious that Logan Sargent was Capito's guy. He wanted to bring in Logan Sargent so badly, and judging by like the way of the end of the year, it seemed like he was trying to like push it towards, seeing as how he lost his job, and it seems like he was pushed out the door by Doralton. I think Logan might have just been his like, I'm getting an American. Our owners are American. This will kind of save my butt a little bit. So I think with James Vowles coming in, I think he's going to look at Logan completely different, unless Logan has an absolutely stellar season, which I do think he could. I actually rate him pretty highly. I think he could have been in F2 2 years ago. He almost won the championship against Piastri, and then he had to do another year in F3 in Charouz and was awesome in a non-competitive team. So I think he's really, really good, could do good, but I do see a change happening anyways. I think Valtteri Bottas will come to Williams. I think the Alfa Romeo plan just isn't really working for him. They continue to have the development problems throughout the season, and he was clearly very outspoken of their inability to keep up after the opening rounds of the year. And I think, as much as it's a bit of a meme, everyone liked to joke about the Valtteri it's James. I think Valtteri has a very, very good relationship with James, probably. So I think if James can convince Bottas to be like, hey, I'm turning things around over here, and it's also where you used to be. And like we're maybe not looking trying to be the B team that some people are talking about with Mercedes, but it's like I think James, if he brings the right strategy, could definitely convince Valtteri to come over to Williams. And from there, that actually causes big shakeups. And yeah, Alex is just staying in Williams. I know there's the whole Red Bull stuff, but I don't think competing in the backmarker team, unless he has an absolutely stellar year, there's no reason why he's going to get brought to Red Bull. So there isn't really anything to make him leave Williams quite yet. So that brings me to Alfa Romeo, since we now have to replace Bottas, and Zhou's seat, I believe, is technically empty. I don't think Zhou's going to leave. I think there's still the transition to Audi and the whole fact of the trying to bring China back for another Grand Prix and having a Chinese driver on the grid. As much as I'm not trying to discredit Zhou, he's a great driver. I still think the main reason why he is around is for money. Like, every driver on the grid is a great driver at this point. That's pretty easy to say. I don't think there is a bad driver on the grid. I know some of these drivers, like Zhou, Stroll, probably even Sargent or De Vries, are getting criticism, like, oh, pay drivers or whatever. But I do think he is a fantastic driver, deserved a shot in F1. I don't rate his first season as highly as a lot of others do, but I think his money is going to be a big reason why he stays with Alfa Romeo. Or I should change that to Sauber, because I think they're going to be Sauber next season, or some version of Audi Sauber. But yeah, so I think he stays, and obviously Bottas has gone on to Williams. So I think Audi brings in Kevin Magnussen. Now, yeah, I don't see Kevin Magnussen as the long-term pick for Audi, for Audi slash Sauber. I started saying Sauber and then changed it to Audi to became Saudi. Yeah, I don't know if he's a long-term pick, but to me at this point, Kevin has proven himself to be a very, very fast driver in the midfield. So I think they look for someone competitive. Like, I think they want to keep Bottas there probably for another year, but I think once he goes, they just have to look for who is available, willing to move, and I think that becomes Kevin Magnussen. I think for like Ferrari and Haas, I don't think they make quite the jump that they're expecting to, and Haas has always had the development problems. I know they're talking about money grab and having money to be able to spend and develop this year, but I'll believe it when I see it. So I think for that reason, Magnussen gets an opportunity to leave because his contract is up at the end of the year, and I think he decides to go to Audi. It's a good fit. They're a competitive team, maybe probably around, if not slightly better than Haas at this point, and I think it's just a chance for Kevin to continue to do well in the sport and, yeah, get another chance to show off. Which brings me, I believe, now to Haas. So, of course, they're going into this year with the nice little rivalry between Hülkenberg and Magnussen. And I think Magnussen just does outperform Hülkenberg. Like, I know a lot of people are excited for Nico to be back on the grid, but outside of, well, when he had those couple starts in Silverstone with Racing Point, he did all right. I'd say like they probably had the second best car on the grid that year in 2020. So he was expected to be competitive and to beat Stroll, which I don't think he actually did, but I'd put that down to Racing Point probably favoring Stroll on strategy. But yeah, and he just did not do good last year in those couple races that he did. I do not rate Hülkenberg very highly at this point. I wouldn't be shocked if it was a one and done, but I don't think it will be. I think with Kevin Magnussen deciding to walk away, I think Haas decides to bring Hülkenberg back in, and then to fill in the second seat, they decide to finally add an American driver to an American team in Logan Sargent with, once again, another really, really bad edit of him. Dude's got no neck here. Oh, that's funny. So, I don't think he's going to beat Albon or anything like that, but I do think Logan Sargent has a good enough season to attract a little bit of attention from Haas. And so when they inevitably lose Kevin Magnussen, I think they just decide to look across and pick up Logan Sargent. It's great for the sponsors. He's a good driver and gives them a measuring stick against Nico Hülkenberg, who they get to decide if the speed or the experience is what they want to really decide on the future. So I think Logan Sargent could stay in the sport, but I don't know if it's with Williams. He's only been in their development team a year, so I don't think there's a lot of loyalty from either side. And I could see him moving teams at some point. And who else do I have? So yeah, that actually brings me to the end of it. So now again, going back to my main screen, we can see all the changes that happened. So I put Hamilton and Russell back in at Mercedes. Magnussen took the place of Bottas. Stroll stayed at Aston Martin. Sargent took the place of Magnussen. Hülkenberg stayed. De Vries stayed at AlphaTauri. Tsunoda ultimately lost his seat to bring Ricciardo back in. Alex Albon stayed at Williams, and Bottas decided to make the move to Williams. So in this little scenario that I come up with, I think the one big move that really happens is going to entirely revolve around Valtteri Bottas and deciding if he wants to stay another year at Sauber/Audi, which I think if Williams comes slightly more competitive this year and the relationship that he has with James Vowles, I think that's going to be a key factor, and I won't be shocked at all if they're able to convince Bottas to come back to Williams, and where he can just fully have a team leader role, potentially, and try and prove himself against Alex Albon. And yeah, I think that's really it. Let me know your opinions. Who do you think is going where? Where am I completely wrong? What F2 drivers might make the jump up? I know I didn't bring up any rookies for the 2024 season. I know I definitely have a few who potentially could. I'm looking, of course, really at still the lower end teams like Alfa Romeo, AlphaTauri, Haas. I could easily see any of them going for an F2 person at the end of next season. But yeah, let me know. Thank you very, very, very much for watching.